So Eric Adams appeared on Tucker Carlson. And I said, what? Eric is really going hard. Eric is going hard, but it's a specific part that I
Mr.
want
Mayor.
to play for you guys, okay? I don't want to go through the introduction. Y'all know who he is. I don't want to go through what he stands for because you already know that he switched sides depending on who got that pardon for him. I want to go into this part where he talks about the Biden administration and his relationship with him and whether or not they told him to be quiet when it came to this migrant crisis. Make sure you guys hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's rock.
Because of that.
So if we could just walk through and leave out the parts you can't talk about, of course, but this happens at the beginning of the Biden administration, which is close to the beginning of your administration. All these foreign nationals start showing up in New York. They have no money, they have no jobs, they have no place to stay, and you have to deal with them. And the taxpayers here have to deal with them. So you go to Washington. What were those meetings like?
Sharing with them that this was a problem.
Who did you speak to?
I spoke with Julie Chavez, is one of the personnel, Perez, another personnel. I spoke with the president himself. I spoke with the president first, then the president came here.
He said, I spoke with the president himself. That means that it wasn't like they wasn't aware of the problem. We know that they weren't aware of the problem. It's impossible for them to act like they wasn't aware of the problem. But now we have confirmation and testimony from the mayor of the biggest city in the United States of America, basically saying, I spoke with the president himself. Now we're going to get to some bottom of some things.
To New York City, the governor and I sat down with the president. And I said, Mr. President, I'm not sure what they're telling you about this problem, but this is a terrible problem that's playing out on the ground, that we need to fix our border, and we need to just stop allowing people to come into the country with no destiny. We don't know what we're doing with them. And there was some that were coming here that were almost 6 months to a year, in some cases 2 years, without any work authorization. Like, what do you do with someone that cannot provide for themselves for that long period of time?
Well, what do you do?
We had to house them. We had to feed, clothe, house, educate 40,000 children, hold them into a shelter system, the complete package of what you would do for an adult that can't take care of themselves.
I see everything y'all saying.
And so you tell the president and his aides this, and what do they say?
Basically, be a good Democrat, Eric.
Be a good Democrat?
That was the basic overall theme. One of his aides told me that, listen, this is like a goldstone. It'll pass.
Be a good boy, Eric. Shut your mouth. I said it. I said it a long time ago when Eric Adams first started being investigated and his aides started getting raided and you start to see everything fall apart. It was because Eric Adams has started getting antsy. Eric Adams is not the type of person you take with yourself, take with you on a heist. Eric is the person that's going to tell everything about what happened on that heist. Once he get arrested, if he start getting antsy, he's going to be like, you know what? If you give me a corned beef sandwich and a Coke, I'll tell you everything that happened. Eric Adams is Tekashi 6ix9ine. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing if you're on the right side of the law. Okay? It's not a bad thing. We want snitches because snitches tell the truth. And then snitches ultimately give up the real kingpin, which we know it was sitting at the top of the White House. You know what they told him? Be a good Democrat, Eric. Be a good boy. Now, where Denver Mayor Mike Johnston and Karen Bass and Mayor Mohawk over there in Chicago is doing the bidding of their father. Okay? So while y'all sitting there saying that, oh no, we vote Democrat, we holding it down, we taking care of business, who the real slave masters? Who's the ones that's really on the plantation now? We gonna get to Eric Adams. Trust me, I'm gonna play this interview and I'm gonna break this segment down. Who's the ones that's really on the plantation? When we say the Democratic plantation, this is exactly what we mean. Who on the plantation and who the free thinkers? Because they always want to call us names. I seen somebody in the chat earlier say, Anton, this person called you the COON name. Who the real plantation workers? Be a good boy, vote Democrat. Be a good mayor, be a good Democrat. Who the real plantation workers and owners? Because it's only the people at the top of the Democratic ticket that's really benefiting. Eric just said it. Let me play it again for y'all in the back.
What do they say?
Basically, be a good Democrat, Eric.
Be a good Democrat?
That was the basic overall theme. One of his aides told me that, listen, this is like a gallstone. It'll pass.
It's like a gallstone, it'll pass.
Yes. It'll hurt now, but it'll pass.
Well, you pee it out then. Right. Why do you have to?
well said. And what many people didn't understand, because people believe that, okay, you're down 170,000.
Eric, you're going to have to hold this L, big dog. Eric D. Hold your people accountable, bro. Eric D. Hold your people accountable. I want you to come to the front of the congregation, and now I want you to finally admit that this is not a farce. This is not a coup. This is something that's real. That they have been plotting for a long time, and they thought that we wasn't going to bring it to the front of the congregation during this national election, and they thought that they could just skirt past it and it wouldn't play again. It wouldn't be a big deal. But we yelled at the top of the mountain, and we flipped every single swing state red, and now they mad about it. Be a good boy, Eric. Be a good boy. Brandon Johnson's still playing the game.
We were able to cycle out of our care. We still have about 52,000 that are in our care. And they said, well, okay, the damage is behind you. That is not true. We took $6.5 billion out of paying for chronically absent students. We could have paid $200 million for. We could have paid for housing, older adults. The long-term impact of what's happening to New York, Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles, Houston, the long-term impact has yet to materialize of what this crisis has done to our cities.
So what do you think?
Eric, you've always been for borders, but you have not been holding the Democrats accountable for the fact that this has always been a planned attack on the American people. This is the definition of treason. This should warrant 100 charges, and in the words of Umar Johnson, 2,000 lashes against everybody at the top of the Democratic ticket. Everybody should be outraged after this interview.
Damage looks like long term.
It's a combination of things. We're facing, after COVID, we're dealing with a severe mental health issue. Throughout the entire country. But specifically here in New York, we have a substantial number of chronically absent young people who were just traumatized from COVID and other things. And they just stopped coming to school. If I had $200 million that I can go out and go find those young people and place them back on the correct course, I'm preventing the long-term problem. If you don't educate, you're going to incarcerate. That's the common denominator in all of our prisons, the lack of education. I could have put hundreds of millions of dollars in what I'm doing around dyslexia screening and other learning disabilities. So those $6.5 million that I didn't put into housing, I did not put into senior care. We're getting ready to excuse medical debt for New Yorkers that are dealing with severe medical debt. All of these dollars could have gone into dealing with the long-term fixes that we were.
And guess where it went to? Making sure that you housed criminals so that they can go and beat up the police officers in New York and set people on fire on trains. Crazy.
Projecting to correct.
And did you tell the White House that?
Over and over again, the impact of what these
and they
dollars.
didn't seem to care at all.
It appears to me that there was a bigger focus on the national election and not what it was doing to the cities. And we started to build a coalition of other mayors, because when I was standing alone talking about this, it appears as though that, well, Eric, why
What's
are you
up, Molly?
complaining and no one else is complaining? And then other mayors started to see what was happening in their cities. And I started meeting with the mayor of Chicago and Denver and other mayors. And
He's singing like a bird. He's singing like a bird. I's free now. I's free now. I can say as what I want to say. Because Biden ain't it all. Notice how this happened directly right after Trump got anointed or inaugurated in the office, got sworn into office. This interview was not going to happen while Biden was in office. Absolutely not. Eric Adams, he a lot of things, but he ain't that dumb. He a lot of things, but he ain't that dumb. This would never happen while Biden was in office at all. Notice how Biden didn't extend a pre-pardon to Eric Adams. He gave it to Dr. Fauci. He gave it to Liz Cheney. He gave it to Hunter Biden. He gave it to Milley. He didn't give no pre-pardon to Eric Adams. He was like, you gonna go ahead and take this L, dog, because you didn't play nice.
said, we have to be uniform around this issue.
It sounds like they treated you with contempt.
Again, I think they used the terminology, you were not being a good Democrat. I think that was their philosophy, that I was supposed to silently watch what happens to this city. And I love this city. This is a city that I gave my life to protect. And I was watching the erosion. We were getting almost 8,000 migrants and asylum seekers a week, 16,000 every 2 weeks. And we were being compelled by the Legal Aid Society to find them housing within a short period of time until we had to go back to court and fight that this humanitarian crisis is not what is normally someone has the right to have shelter within the city. And they were coming in 1, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. It was a constant overturn.
I'm just confused by why that's the responsibility of the taxpayers, the citizenry of New York, and your responsibility. Someone comes into our country illegally from another nation, not invited, here in violation of our laws, and it's your responsibility to make sure that they're dealt with? How does that work? Where did that responsibility come from?
I have no idea. It's a national problem. It should be a national price tag. They wanted to give us 130.
Hey, reach out to the mayor's office in New York and see if we can get him on the morning show.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
$8 million to a $6.5 billion price tag, and wanted to reimburse us for a hotel room at $11 per hotel room. You can't get a doorknob in New York City for $11. It was just unrealistic, and it really, to bring people into the country without knowing where they are going to and what is their role. That's not a plan, that's chaos. And that chaos started to really cascade throughout our entire country.
Was there ever a conversation in your 10 trips to Washington where anybody said, really sorry for doing this to you?
Never.
Never?
Never.
I agree. I believe that also. I think that Eric Adams absolutely was the fall guy. I think that he was set up from the beginning, that they never was going. Listen, one of them had to be the fall guy, whether it was Eric Adams or Brandon Johnson or Mike Johnson or Karen Bass. One of them had to be the fall guy. I think that from the very beginning, when they were saying, hey, be a good Democrat, that was not a license, or that didn't mean that they was going to protect him. That means that they needed somebody to take that L. And if he wasn't quiet, see, it was easy to blame the Democratic mayors and say, hey, listen, Eric Adams, he over there being a bad guy. Or Brandon Johnson, he not playing ball. Or Karen Bass or Mike Johnson or any of these people, it was easy to let the fallout happen and then protect yourself. Because remember during the election, Kamala Harris was trying to blame it on Trump. We had a bipartisan agreement where when the heat started getting too hot, she was saying, we had a bipartisan agreement where If it wasn't for Donald Trump calling his constituents at the end of 2023 and killing that bill, we would have gotten Congress to get the funding to ultimately have a stemming of the flow of fentanyl in this country. We would have had more border agents. Trump, in his first 2 days in office, had everybody going home and everybody getting deported and didn't need no support from Congress or no additional monies. Eric Adams and the crew was going to be the fall guys from the very beginning. They just didn't know that they was the dummies being set up with it. They thought that they was a part of the crew. They never was a part of the crew. They threw a couple bones over there to Mayor Mohawk, and they said, "Hey, listen, fam, listen. We'll let you speak in the after hours at the Democratic National Convention, but you're going to have to shut up and be a good Democrat." I guarantee you they gave the same speech over to all the rest of those mayors. Guarantee you they gave the same speech, bro.
Never.
So you say I'm the mayor of New York? It's the biggest city in the country. You can't treat me like a servant?
We deserve more. I said this over and over again. This city deserves more. We're the economic engine of this country, and we deserve more. And we should not stymie the future of people in the city. We had a clear plan on how we were going to move this city in the right direction. We started to see the decrease in crime. We started to see the city turn it around. And in the midst of this, this gets dropped into our laps. And then part of the problem was we were getting Venezuelan gang leaders that were coming to the city, creating crimes in the city. My hands were tied. I could not allow to stop the buses from coming in. I couldn't give people authorization to work. I was required to give them housing. I couldn't even allow them to volunteer and give them a stipend for picking up garbage and removing graffiti and doing some of the services. They said, no, you can't do that either.
Somebody says, AD, you said if your job is paying you well, shut up. This is the ignorance that comes along with a lot of these conversations, is because we don't know when it's applicable and when it's not applicable. If you are a leader and you are being paid with public tax dollars, that's a completely different conversation than if you work at tech at StubHub and nobody is asking you for your leadership. They want you to come in and do your software engineering. I said if you're making $500,000 being a software engineer at StubHub, maybe you should just shut up and do your job. Nobody is asking you for your opinion. When you are the leader and you're managing budgets and you're determining whether or not funding is going to the schools and the kids or infrastructure or police officers, or whether or not we're going to be paying for migrants, I think that that's a completely different conversation. I think that when you're a leader of a city, it is your responsibility and duty to the people that actually voted you in. So I'm going to need you, King Charlotte, to think about what you say before you say it and add the context to it, because I don't understand why y'all so far removed from logic. Can y'all not think? Do y'all not have the ability to apply it to one situation and not apply it to the other situation? If you're a software engineer at StubHub and you're making a $500,000 compensation package, maybe you should shut up and do your job because ain't nobody asked you for your opinion. But when you got to answer to the voters and the taxpayers and the people in the United States of America of why you selling them out, maybe you should provide an explanation or do things differently. Am I off, or am I the only person that graduated without having to end up in room 9?
So they had to sit there idle and then...
Think about that.
Yeah, think about that.
You know, idle mind.
Yeah, no, it's totally right. Idle hands.
All right.
Thank you, Dolores.
Was it after your 10th trip that you got indicted, when you started complaining about it in public?
It was after the 10th trip, and on the one of the trips, I was headed down to Washington D.C. to meet with leaders about
Shout out to Dub
other
City
mayors,
and everybody that's subscribed to the channel.
on the plane ride down, one of my fundraiser had a house raided while I'm on
the way to Washington to meet with other mayors about immigration.
On his way to Washington to meet with other mayors about immigration is when he got his house raided. He said the 10th time that he showed up to Washington, they said, all right, raids is coming. We all knew this. We knew this. We've been covering this before we really, really blew up on this channel. We've been covering this for a long time, and I said it a long time ago. I said, oh, Eric is being punished. From the very beginning, I said, I don't necessarily agree with Eric Adams, and I think that he's absolutely been doing the wrong thing, and he's been turning a blind eye for too long. But at some point, he woke up, he had a bad dream. And remember, I said he was just like on Jerry Maguire. He had a change of consciousness. He could no longer be a part of the Democratic plantation. He couldn't be a part of the go along, get along game. He wrote his manifesto. He complained too much. He got a little bit too loud. He had too many people in his city. He started doing too many press conferences. And the next thing you know, he had somebody saying, show me the money. Eric Adams couldn't shut up too long. Next thing you know, he started getting indicted. And I guarantee you that was also using him as an example for everybody else. Y'all better shut up. Brandon Johnson, I dare you to say something. If we can do it to Eric, and we ain't even soliciting his constituency to try to rally the people in New York to try to win us this election, and he had a mayor of the biggest city in the United States of America, I guarantee you he was being made an example for the rest of these mayors and saying, okay, anybody else? Anybody else want to form a coalition? Anybody else want to play a game? Because not only are we going to raid him, we raiding everybody around him. We raiding all of his aides. We running his chief of staff out. We going to run out the police chief. We going to hold these people accountable. And we ain't sending you no funding because you keep on talking. I guarantee you that he was being made an example for everybody else that decided that they want to stand up for themselves. Oh, we got one over here. Okay. All right. You don't want to be a good boy and play on the plantation? Y'all want to speak out? We can't get Obama and Michelle Obama to go over there and tell y'all to turn against y'all husbands and y'all wives and vote for Democrats. We can't get you on board. You keep making things difficult for us? Okay. You don't want to play like Charlemagne and Ricky Smiley and Steve Harvey? You don't want to play like Roland Martin and be a part of the Democratic plantation? You don't want to be a good boy? Okay. Yeah. You wanted to you was a tough one. Oh, you was a stand-up one. Huh. Okay. 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 So you want to play basketball in Pelican Bay, huh? Okay, Hoyt. My ninja. That's what they did him. That's how they did him.
Symbolism.
Did you know it was connected?
No, I had no idea. I had no idea what it was about. And when I returned to the city and I started hearing Turkey, I was like, "What is this? What is this?" I follow the rules. I follow the law, and this is the most bizarre thing that has ever happened to me in my life. And Tucker, it's one of the most painful things. You cannot imagine how it feels to watch your life unfold like this. I said it over and over again. The only benefit of all of this is that, mommy's not alive to see this. It would have broken my heart for her to have to watch us.
You hear that with a lot of people who've been successful. You get to this place that you never thought you'd be, and you realize you don't have as much power as you thought you had. And when you disobey, you get crushed.
Right. Just like that.
Shout out to Eric Adams. We're going to have to review more of this on the Anton Daniels channel. We definitely going to be talking about it on After Hours tonight.